Okay.
I'll have
Do
to,
you know where this came from?
I think his son
Drafted this?
drafted that.
Okay.
That's what I
This
understand.
is our actual ordinance.
That's your actual ordinance,
This
and
is
then,
what his son drafted.
and, yeah, and if you look, it
thinking
shows,
that-
well, that would just clarify
Okay,
what we're
see
saying,
attached.
see, it's,
All
see
right.
attached. It just
Okay.
clarifies,
So he drafted this, that makes sense
that's,
now.
yes, and that's all, I mean,
See
it
attached.
just clarifies our wording a little bit better
The
for
definitions are
definition.
redefined.
Yeah, ours is vague.
Okay.
I would feel more comfortable sending it to our consultant that drafted the whole zoning and see how that affects it, and getting an opinion from him. I don't know when we wanna do that, but I would suggest that, because we're just, our attorney does legal things, but he's not a consultant of how that affects all our zoning and what we're doing. He just basically does what we ask him.
I don't know that we're ready to send it to the consultant. I don't know that.
Well, I'm just throwing out that I'd be
Yeah.
looking for that, so whenever we're ready, that you're aware that I would look for that.
Well, okay. When I
We
just,
need a careful read as to whether his use is permitted and whether, the I-1 recycling as written is an accessory use to that permitted use. And I don't know that we've got that determination yet.
right, accessory is pretty vague.
Well, here again, I'm just pointing out, since we only have one meeting,
Right.
you know, I'm trying to work ahead for him to have things in motion.
Well, right now, he wants it changed, that's what he submitted, so, and I asked him to come tonight, but he thought that he wanted just to, I think,
Okay, so what do you want me to do with this? Pass it on to the planning commission? Do you want me to forward it to Tim, make copies and get
Just
them to
keep
you
it.
guys?
just keep it until Chip says what he wants to do.
Yeah, he's got a file.
He's gotta
somewhere.
say what he wants to do, if, you know, I think so. He's already told us what he's done, he's filled out certain paperwork, let's follow through with that.
Okay.
But, you know, they're,
So continue to have Tim move then?
yes.
With just the lot change?
Just a
Okay.
line change.
You can
All
just
right.
email us a copy of what,
Right.
so we can
This.
review it, yeah.
What is the definition of accessory use?
I don't know.
Accessory use, just to give you, there's not one definition, but to give you an idea with my airport, not my airport, my mother's airport, a lot of airports have restaurants on. And so our use is an airport, but an accessory use is something that usually happens on there, on a facility like a restaurant, to provide to passengers and things like that. So it's usually, you have a main use, but then you have an accessory use that's kind of normal and fits with that main use.
Well, who determines the normacy of that, I guess is.
Right here.
Looking at the zoning book, we have accessory use just about at the end of every.
This is in.
Right, because you can find accessory uses for main uses in a lot of different situations. I think our planning commission considers what's going on around the country as a source, right?
I think there's things spelled out throughout the document regarding accessory uses. There are accessory uses for residential, there's accessory uses for commercial and industrial. And that's spelled out. Like, for instance, manufacturing is permitted in a commercial area, provided it doesn't exceed a certain percentage of the floor area. And commercial activities are permitted in manufacturing areas, provided it only makes a certain percentage of it. And it's got to be subservient to that main activity. So,
Yeah, in light industrial 1, permitted uses, there's 23 permitted uses, including repair shops, manufacturing, offices, engine repair shops, and then accessory use is number 24, calls out A, recycling, B, power generation, and C, athletic fields as accessory uses to the 23 above.
But if you have another accessory use that's not on the list and you can show that that's a typical accessory use other places, the zoning hearing board can allow that. It really depends what you wanna do and does it fit in the current accessory uses, or can you show that it really is an accessory use to that main use? But Dave's right, usually, well, it is, it's not, the main use isn't subservient to the accessory use. The accessory use is a small part of that operation.
I don't know that it's spelled out that clear. I mean, it's, because
Well,
it
there's
says not
some-
limited to, it spells out some, but it says not limited to.
In this particular case, but there are cases where it's very defined in other parts of the
I
zone.
understand, but I'm just saying, in there, I mean, I've read it, and it
It's not
says
very
not
defined
limited.
in our language.
No.
Yeah.
So I guess, what are you asking, who determines what an
Yeah,
accessory
I'm-
use
yeah,
is?
who hangs the halo
I
over,
mean,
yes,
what
that's
it-
an accessory use, or no, it's not. That's,
You know, because it's, even though it spells some, it doesn't spell it all out and doesn't say it's limited to that. So I
But
guess,
if it doesn't say it, you have the avenue to go before the, present it to the planning commission and the supervisors, and then to the zoning hearing board to ask that it be included as an accessory use, if you come up with it. And actually, that's what happened with the restaurant, because it wasn't, township didn't spell that out for, airports, because they really didn't have any airport zones. We were airports in existing zoning, like, I think they were industrial, and now it's an airport zone, and we were residential, now we're agriculture, at the airport zone, but there's not always a definition, but there are a lot of definitions for things that people are used to, like a residence or commercial buildings, that type of thing, that's the norm, I would say. That doesn't mean you can't come in and ask if you wanna do something. But if you want an accessory use that uses up 90% of your floor space, you're probably not gonna get it compared to, this is 20% of my floor space, type of thing.
I just, reading over the zoning, it seemed like the accessory use was a catch-all for every zone classification, basically, in the book.
In some areas, it's not, there is specific, like the residential, but in some areas, I think it allows us flexibility to go through that, and sometimes you have to let the process go through the whole zoning hearing board thing to establish that.
And that was my question, who defined accessory use at whichever level you wanted to look at it, whether it's.
Yeah, I think Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the supervisor of the planning commission have the ability to define that that's an accessory use, but if they don't want to define it as an accessory use, they can go to the zoning hearing board, right?
Well, I guess my interpretation would be the zoning officer would have the first to say where it is.
spell it out in here, I mean, procedure, I mean, do we have a, I guess what Wade's asking, is there a procedure that, let's say he comes in, wants to do something, and it's defined as accessory by who, number one, and then if it is accessory, it sounds like it's a conditional use or a variance or something now. Is it?
Not
I mean,
necessarily.
well,
It's
I
like-
guess that's what I'm asking
It's like,
too.
it's like what's in the book there. There's a listing of things that you can do. The zoning officer has the authority by law, if there's something in there that's gray, but it seems to be similar to something else, the zoning officer has the right to okay that. Now, as in anything else, anybody can challenge that. So if the zoning officer would make a decision that they felt that it fit into this particular category, and you guys said, we don't agree with that, you have the right to challenge that. You don't have the right to tell the zoning officer to change their mind, you have a right to challenge it. If they decide, the zoning officer says, I don't think it fits in anything, then the person making the request has the right to go to the zoning hearing board and ask to have it reinterpreted. And those are your checks and balances, and if you don't like it after that, then you take it to court. But those are your challenge, those are really the processes that you should go through.
What you expect is your zoning officer would bring to you that situation and that they're gonna make a decision one way or the other and explain why.
Well, certainly it'd be, the zoning officer should be talking to the planning commission and telling the planning commission that there seems to be gray areas here that need to be cleaned up, and bringing it to the attention of the supervisors that there are probably things that can be improved in the zoning ordinance.
I think all those steps are still before us on this one.
Good deal.
We're just answering Wade's question.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
Okay. Item 5 is vacancies, and now we're back talking about zoning officer again. 5A, zoning officer services. We are in receipt of a letter from Spring Township detailing their expense or their charge to us for Von Zimmerman for the period that he serves as interim. And that rate is, with base rate and fringe benefits loaded, is $25.51 an hour, plus reimbursable mileage. We approved the appointment of Von Zimmerman on an interim basis at the last meeting. Absent this information on his wage, so we need to approve that at this time. Asking for motions.
I make a motion that, we accept the Spring Township criteria for their zoning services.
I'll second it.
Was that in the packet? I don't
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, I don't see anything to discuss.
Then we'll vote. John?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. At the same time, I think we need to advertise to see what interest we have in zoning officer on a part-time basis. I wrote up a draft ad that I thought I had copies of. John has a copy.
You read it or? I didn't see it.
And it would go something like this: Benner Township seeks individual or firm for position as zoning officer, code enforcement officer. Currently proposed to be part-time support. Position offers flexible hours but will require regular office hours. Please forward letter of interest, qualification, and salary expectations to the township by February 29th. For consideration, please call the office for a more detailed description.
My question on that was, what are you thinking as regular office hours and how many hours? And because I've only been used to, we had a zoning officer here all the time and the public had access to it.
Get sued to take it.
Regular office hours, I guess, are gonna be a function of how much work there is, how much activity there is. I would expect that it would be at least 2 days, or best part of 2 days per week. It could be more as conditions require.
I guess the question is, how does our community know what days to come in and what days to deal with that? Sometimes we get things that we'd like to get through for them, that they wouldn't be able to do them because the zoning officer wasn't available at the time. I understand working with Vaughn and him being part-time, but that's a little different from when we go to somebody that we're gonna be working with all the time.
I know when I call zoning people, for me, I have to wait and make an appointment. If I go to Patton or Ferguson, they always get back with me in a day or two. But it's never me walking over saying, how do you talk to them? I never ever have a chance to do that.
Well, the convenience we had is you need a permit to put a shed in or something, somebody wants to go buy a shed,